Good evening once again. Who's ready to tell some stories? Who's ready to hear some stories? Yeah? Okay, we've got several folks ready for you tonight. They're all here. They're all ready to go. Our first speaker tonight needs no introduction.
Pastor Josh, I've always wanted somebody to do that instead. I need no introduction. You talk for 15 minutes and introduce Is this my place? I think you're a little taller than I.
Stand a little closer to it.
Stand a little closer to it.
Seriously.
Okay. Well, several decades ago, my parents, my little brother, and I moved from North Knoxville to a house in Bearden. The house was on a big hill, and there were a meadow, a woods, and a creek that ran in the background. Boy, you talk about a paradise. Well, some neighbors introduced my parents to Pastor Auburn Bowers, who's the first college pastor of the Messiah. And after they met and talked with him, they decided to become Lutherans and join this church. At the time we joined the congregation was worshiping in a small, white, wooden church building that we rented from Aaron Presbyterian, and it was on the east side of Bearden Hill, right about where Rose Funeral Home is located now. And I remember the Sunday that my family joined. We were introduced to the congregation. We were standing out front. And Pastor Bowers shook my parents' hands and welcomed them very warmly. And then he did something that I really didn't expect. And even though I was a boy, he came over and he shook my hand and welcomed me, just like I was an adult. I really think that's the first time an adult ever shook my hand, at least that I can remember. And ever since then, my life has been intertwined with the congregation. After we joined, the congregation built its own church building right here, right on this property. While I was in college, I met a beautiful girl. And she finally gave up trying to run me off, and so she had no choice but to marry me. Well, we had two lovely daughters who were both baptized and confirmed, and now two grandchildren who are members. 4 generations. Sometimes a good welcome goes a long way. Well, the house where I lived when we joined, the street, the woods, the meadow, have all been bulldozed and are under concrete. The street is still there. I'm sorry, the creek is still there, but now it runs through a pipe. But we're still here, and this is our church home, and I think it's better than ever.
Thank you so much. What a story. What a way to kick us off. So you said you tried to write him off and he just kept... Oh, now I see what kind of man Tom was. He was dating somebody else. Tom was creeping in. Thank you so much. Let's give another round of applause. Thank you for let's keep this train moving tonight. Let's hear the next story. I'd like to invite Ms. Doris Featherson to the podium, to the lectern here.
Can you hear me? I served my working life as a church secretary. Church secretaries don't have to talk to microphones. So this is not usual for me. But anyway, I'm a member here for 30 years, but my story is about my husband, Norm, a 50-year member who died in early January. Norm was an active member involved in teaching, leading, doing, singing in the choir, any activity available, he was there, until he couldn't be there any longer. Then the church came to him. Communion was delivered to our home by pastors or trained members, and visitors were always welcomed. And then, during the Christmas season in December, the choir appeared. They came to Norm's room at Legacy Park and circled the room. Norm was up and dressed for the occasion, but relaxed on the bed as the lovely music started. His smile was beautiful to behold, and he even sang along when the Christmas carol was one he remembered. He couldn't read at that point. That was a joy to behold, and the glow on his face was an added gift. The Norm I'm having trouble reading. The Norm I know so well was there again for a brief time. The Holy Spirit was speaking through the music, and Norm and I both heard it. As former choir members, we were both filled with love and appreciation for the gift of love provided to us that day by each and every singer. The music spoke loudly to Norm, more so than talking. He preferred the music. It was Christ's love carried into that room, and it was felt by both of us. Thank you to Messiah and its choir for the wonderful gift of music and Christ's love that carried us to our shut-ins through this ministry. It was much appreciated by the Featherstons. Thank you.
It made my eyes a little blurry, a little spicy there. I wonder how many people in here are touched by the music or show up for the music, or who say the music is really a key component of who we are as a church. Can we give you just a little royal wave? Yeah. That's what I thought. Most of us in here. So when we talk about the ways that we do ministry, music is one of the most powerful ministries that we have. Thank you so much to all of our musicians, and especially to our incredible music director. Thank you for leading us in this ministry. All right. Let's keep the train moving. Now next I'd like to invite up Miss Rachel Rushworth Hollander. You. Come on up. How long is your video? Thank you so much.
Okay, now I was told I had 5 minutes.
Yes.
And I filled all my minutes. Settle in. First, before I start, I need a show of hands. Who knows who Elsa from Frozen is? Okay, great. If your hand's not up, we're just walking different lives, and that's okay. Be important in a minute. Hey, I forgot something I have to pass around. Okay, so I'm going to take us back in chapter 1 to a time that absolutely no one wants to go back to, and that is COVID. So, COVID was, as we all know, a stressful time, filled with a lot of different things for different people. Being scared, loss, a lot of unease, and uncertainty. And our church correctly made the choice to get out of the building for a while. And so, like many places and many things in our lives, we went home and we weren't here physically together for a while. And while it was the right thing to do, and there were lots of people, specifically Jenny and Angela, who Zoomed with the children and reached out to the families, I was really, really scared that my kids were going to forget church. Like, just forget the feeling of being in church and worshiping and stuff. Rolling was 3 and turned 4 during that time, and Granger was 18 months. So I just had this deep-seated fear of, like, they're just not going to know what church is really like. Chapter 2. Roger Miller, who worked behind the scenes during that time to kind of orchestrate all the worship happenings, called me and said, hey, here's what we're going to try. We're going to Facebook live stream the services. We'll have one person who does all the things. Pastor Susan will preach, Joan will play on the music, and someone will run the camera. It was probably John. And I said, sure, I'd love to do that. Sign me up. I'll come in where everybody was masked up. And I said, can I bring Rolling? And as our church does pretty much every time, he said, of course, bring her. So I am going to pass around. I'm a teacher, so I have to have visuals and all of the things. Okay, so I'm going to pass around a picture. It's actually a bunch of pictures of a screen, which my mom is notorious for doing, taking pictures of TV screens and computer screens and then sending them to me. So I'm going to pass around pictures of Rolling helping me lead the first online Facebook live stream service that we worked. And you'll see, first of all, that she is in an Elsa dress. And when I think of COVID and this time, that's all she wore for like a year straight, this one dress. And so it's funny to me that she's in it for these pictures as well. But as that picture comes around to you, you'll see in a bunch of different frames, me standing masked, Rolling in her Elsa dress, sometimes with her hand up, helping sing, and then sometimes looking this way, and then sometimes hanging on to me because she was bored. But she was with me, up there leading worship. So that happened for many months, if you remember, and Rolling and I led a handful of times. I don't remember exactly how many times. I do think she was wearing her Elsa dress every time, though. And by the end of it, when I was called to come in and help and assist, she expected to come with me. She was like, I'm coming with you, what do we do? Chapter 3, there's only 3 chapters, guys. There is an epilogue. All right. So chapter 3, we come back to church, right? Eventually we did come back and gather together, and even though it looked different and felt different in some ways, we were back together. And there were a lot of weird things to get used to, some great things like the playground, which is its own other beautiful tale. But one of the really cool things is that my daughter now expected to help during services if I was a part of it. So if I was the lector, John would set up the stool and she would come stand with me, and as she started to learn to read, maybe read a line at a time. If I was the acolyte, she would walk next to me and then eventually help light the candles, etc., etc. And as she turns 11 next month, if you have noticed, there's really rarely a Sunday that goes by that she doesn't have some sort of role, whether it's now serving communion or something else. And I try not to take for granted how incredible that is, because you could go into a lot of churches down this road and kids are not necessarily part of the service. And as parents, at least for me, I many times get really caught up with obsessing over my own kids' faith. Like, is everything going right for them? Are we doing everything right? Are they getting what they're supposed to from church? And my own faith gets put on the back burner. It's like on the airplanes, they're like, put your mask on before the kids, but we just don't do it. And I get really nervous that things aren't going well for them. But this church has always, and continues to, say, you're not in it alone. We are also a part of their faith journey. And by allowing Rolling to become part of the service and helping at 3.5, wearing an Elsa dress, now it's epilogue time, part of her table. And I asked her on the way here tonight if she remembered doing these things, and she said, yeah, kind of. But she will remember the current stuff and as it continues. And my hope is that now that is her story and her faith as she walks along and hopefully has a lifelong relationship with Christ, that she was able to do that here. The end.
Little mustard seeds getting dropped all along the path. Keep doing that, folks. What Rachel shared about young people being involved in worship. I've been in a lot of churches in the Twin Cities. In the Lutheran world, in the ELCA, the Twin Cities, that's where you go if you're the upper crust, if you're the cream of the crop. And I haven't seen young people involved in worship anywhere like this in the Twin Cities. think about trailblazers, I don't normally think about little scruffy churches in East Tennessee. I think about New York or the Twin Cities. But right here, you heard Rachel say that that's part of the culture here. Thank you all so much for doing that.
And it
Give
has
yourself,
been since I was a child.
since you were here, say you were 50, 60 years? This church?
It's 64 years this year.
64 years for Mary Sophia in this
Yeah.
church. It's
And
a part.
Yeah.
It's a part of the culture. Thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. I want to invite our next speaker up, Miss Crystal. Come on up. Welcome, Madam President.
This is really hard for me. I listen to all of you speak. Everybody has such a
Closer to your mouth.
everybody has such a wonderful way of telling their stories. And they're so polished. Mine's not so much, but it's still it's a story. Thinking back in time, I've often been a loner, fiercely independent, trying to rely only on myself because relying on others can lead to letdowns and disappointments. No one could take better care of me than myself. I often felt like I was in survival mode. I built walls around my feelings. Life is superficial and carefree. Smile, act happy, and don't let anyone get too close. Then back about 25 years ago, on the 4th of July, I went downtown to celebrate Foods Day. Food, fun, and fireworks. I went alone. At one point during that evening, watching the fireworks show, I looked around. I was one among a crowd of hundreds of people. You would think that being surrounded by so many people in such a crowd, you would feel joy, excitement, or something wonderful. I didn't. I felt like I was isolated in a bubble, surrounded by many, but so alone. It was the start of a very dark place for me. By December, my depression had reached a point that one night, I lay in bed and dark thoughts ran through my head that would end my isolation. But I made an appointment with my doctor, shared my thoughts, and began medication for depression. It worked. But something was missing. I needed my heart to feel happy. I needed God back in my life. So I started going back to church. Since I lived in Farragut at the time, I attended a small Lutheran church there. I enjoyed it, but never really felt much of a connection. Shortly after that, I moved, locating closer to Messiah, the church that I had been confirmed in as a teenager. I was welcomed in the church and made to feel cared about. After a few months coming back to Messiah, my confirmand, Woody Troy, came up and hugged me. He looked at me smiling and joyfully said, "You're the only one who came back." He was referencing that I was the only one out of our confirmation class that came back to Messiah. After that, he regularly hugged on me and told me how proud he was of me. I began to get involved in different ministries, areas of the church, and began to feel engaged in the life of the church. This is one place where I gained true friends. These friendships, through honest conversations, have grown over time. Jesus was working himself back in my life. He never really left. But I now allowed his grace and mercy to work in my life. His goodness took root in my life and has allowed me to grow. I feel that each one of you are part of my family, and I don't feel alone. I feel I'm still growing, but firmly rooted.
What an incredible story. I wonder how many of you have experienced something like that? How many of you have felt like you're alone? Nobody's around. But then you think that this might be a place where you can have some real relationships. If something's up, you know you can call somebody from your church family. I hope that this is a place for you. Now, let's keep moving. I want to invite our final storyteller of the evening up, Miss Maddie Baker. Give her a big round. You ready? You can put it here. You can hold it. There you go. Good luck.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the music camp that we had last week that I volunteered at, and about like 29 kids participated at. Going into the camp, I was excited, but I did not realize how much fun it would be. We spent time learning music, practicing puppets, and getting to know the different Orff instruments. There were definitely some challenging moments, but there were also a lot of laughs and great memories. One thing I really enjoyed was seeing how creative all the kids were, from conversations and puppets with like a cockroach or a creepy owl, and to clay and art, and from It didn't matter if someone was good at singing or not, or if they were good at art. It just mattered how hard you tried on it, or the fun you enjoyed in it. And then maybe you could get better if you kept on practicing. What made it even more special was that we weren't just learning music. We were using the music to worship God. The story that we played was Jesus getting lost in Jerusalem, and Mary, Joseph, Elizabeth, and Zechariah looking for him, from going to the marketplace, to the hippodrome, to the temple. I bet all the kids know the story by heart now. I already said that. I certainly do though. It reminded me that worship can be joyful and that the story of God can make a huge difference in our world. Looking back, I think the best part was seeing the new friendships that were made. They formed there was kids who were friends just in the beginning, or they became friends throughout the week. It was amazing to be surrounded by people who were excited to learn, sing, and praise God together. I'm really thankful to everyone who helped make the camp possible, and to everyone who participated. It was a great way to be with God and in the Messiah Lutheran Church. And personally, I think it was a lot better than last year. I hope we continue to do the camp and see the joy come next year. Thank you.
Thank you to all. One more round of applause for all of our storytellers. Thank you for being courageous, and thank you for sharing your story. And guess what? Over the next, however long we're together, I'm going to keep asking you to come back and share your stories with each other. Because if there's one thing that I've learned in this time of ministry, not just these 9 months that I've been with you, but the 10 years before that, it's that we cannot say God's promises to each other enough. And it takes sharing those stories with each other and about each other to help us to see God's presence in our lives. So I hope that you'll continue to do that, and I hope you'll continue to show up. Come back again next week for our next Wednesday evening meal. We have a hymn singing, ending up with Pastor Dave and the puppets, and all the critters in the choir. So Thank you so much. Give yourselves a round of applause one more time. Thank you for making this speech, Mr. Bishop and Ms. Becker. Thank you for everything. Have a good evening, folks.
What do we do with the butterflies?